Hello there. Things might be about to turn very nasty in Ireland. The Irish establishment has trapped itself between a rock and a hard place, with the problem being that they've also p***ed off the majority of their own population. But this point was always going to be reached. Because when you actively work against those who vote for you and pay your wages in favour of total newcomers, then you're always going to come unstuck. But the Irish establishment always knew this was the case. They just hoped to keep the charade of looking after their own people first going for as long as they possibly could. But right now, in the face of a housing crisis, or should I say a population crisis, the Irish authorities are seeking more accommodation for all the newcomers. The government has launched a drive to buy or rent empty properties from landlords, developers and builders to help house record numbers of asylum seekers, reports the Irish Independent. The Department of Integration is looking for buildings that either need extensive renovation or are in usable condition. A tender for expressions of interest has been put out. And the tender will be running for the next year. Something that illustrates the long-term nature of this issue. And the tender document itself makes it quite clear that all the accommodation will be for international protection applicants, not the hard-pressed Irish nationals who will be paying the taxes to make this happen. They really are rubbing their citizenry's noses in it, aren't they? Now, do you remember the people of Newtown Mount Kennedy, who were protesting about the suspicion that their local hotel, River Lodge, also known as Trudder House, would be used to house asylum seekers, and where the Irish police were sent in strength to quell local rebellion against the plan? Well, overnight last night, 60 asylum seekers were brought in and are now in Trudder House. But the earlier actions of the police and this move by the government to totally override local opinion will not go down well. The establishment has won. Well, for now, anyway. And some of those now in Trudder House may well have been taken from that recently cleared out tent city eye and smell sore that has stood for months in Dublin next to the International Protection Office on Mount Street. But now that the Irish immigration plan is out of the bag, the citizenry is getting a little more heated about it all. This, after all, just like the UK, is not what they voted for. So the government has had to find a scapegoat, and that scapegoat is the UK government's Rwanda scheme. And they're now claiming that it's not 80% of their new asylum seekers coming from the UK. No, it's now 90%. All because of the Rwanda plan. Yeah, sure. And they want to return them all to the UK. I see this as an Irish ruse to get the soft UK to take theirs off their hands. So they've given the go-ahead for laws to be drafted up to declare that the UK is a safe country to send them back to. And they had to do that because their court has already ruled that the UK is unsafe because we might then send them to Rwanda. So the Irish government will, if it passes this law, be declaring Rwanda a safe country by proxy. But then comes the difficult bit, the mechanics of deporting them back to the UK. When they don't want to go back to the UK and the UK won't allow them in. How do they prove they came from the UK anyway? What are they going to do? Force them onto ferries back into the UK? They can't march them to the land border across Ireland because it was the Irish side that insisted there be no physical border there. So the asylum seekers could just walk back in again. But get this, the Irish government has relocated 100 or so Garda police officers to border areas, raising concerns that they do plan some sort of police stop and check procedure. A hard border. Now that would not go down well at all, would it? Breaching their own Brexit open border red line, whatever next. Endangering the Belfast Agreement peace process, Joe Biden will not be pleased. And in a bid to win back a few votes, Rishi Sunak took great delight at PMQs yesterday by turning the tables on that open border Irish government Brexit red line and warning the Irish PM not to contemplate doing any such thing. Although it's hard to see any other reason for sending Irish police officers to the border areas. But while those willing to protest in Ireland take an anti-immigration stance, in the UK, those willing to protest are on the side of keeping as many newcomers inside the UK as they can. A group of masked protesters has blockaded the Best Western Hotel in Peckham, South London, and slashed the tyres of a coach that was sent to remove people from the hotel, possibly those earmarked for onward transport to Rwanda. They also surrounded the bus and placed electric bikes around the front and back wheels. And the police went in, all weak like, to have a chat with the protesters, with one protester saying that they would do anything to stop the coach from moving, whatever that looked like. And 2 ambulances were stationed there, in case the protest gets violent. Once again, direct violent action, or the threat of it, prevails. Yes, it is violent because property was damaged, and it is potentially violent if ambulances have to be pre-positioned there. Robust police action is required now. We are past the pussyfooting around stage. Put a no-mask order in place there, collars must be felt, arrests made and the lot of them cleared away to let the relevant authorities do their job. But no doubt the protesters will win and the police will stand around doing sweet FA in order to keep the peace. Yes, keeping the peace by pandering to violence. After all, their Met bosses have proven all the way to be woke, pro-Palestine and pro-anything anti-UK. I do hope I'm proved wrong. But we also have another problem, the civil service. Because the first legal challenge against deporting people to Rwanda will probably be mounted by the FDA union, which represents senior civil servants. They are claiming that civil servants could be at risk of breaking both their civil service code and international law if they go along with the scheme. And if our woke judiciary get a sniff of this type of case, it will throw the government under the bus, because our judges are specifically selected for their wokeness, and have been for years. And please do remember that the PM told us that all these deportation plans would be kept under wraps to stop the type of protest action I just talked about. What's the betting some woke lefty civil servant made a few phone calls? Now that would be breaking the civil service code. How else would they find out so quickly and mobilise so quickly? And I also wonder how many of those protesters are civil servants pretending to work from home. Now, the next UK Labour administration also has its own plans. It looks like they will scrap the Tory laws that prevent those arriving here illegally from claiming asylum. And of course scrap the Rwanda scheme, as well as put 1,000 asylum application checkers in place to rubber stamp the whole lot through faster. Now, interestingly, an unnamed Labour Party source told The Times, "The only way to get a grip of the broken asylum system is to look at claims in the Perma Backlog. Remove those with no right to be here and let those with genuine claims who have fled persecution get on, rebuild their lives and start contributing to our economy and society." Now, I would guess that Perma Backlog is made up mostly of those who ditched all their papers in the Channel on the way over here to hide their true identity and point of origin. So I'm not sure how Labour will deal with that, other than just quietly wave them through and hope no one notices or asks any questions. Actually, that would be the one Labour policy I would place a bet on.